Welcome to a few Mighty Marvel Minutes, where KenendyHawk overviews a topic from the game Marvel Champions and gives some strategy tips in just a handful of minutes. Today's topic is the core set hero Iron Man. Let's begin. Iron Man is one of 5 heroes from the Marvel Champions core set. He's so on theme, he basically sells the game for the designers. To this day, 2 years later, Iron Man is still one of the strongest heroes in the game and is difficult to compete with once fully set up. In alter ego form, Tony Stark has a hand size of 6, and the Futurist ability, which discards 3 cards from his deck and adds one of those cards to his hand. So artificially, his hand size is about 7. In hero form, old Shellhead has a hand size of 1. Yeah, 1. But don't worry, he gets +1 hand size for each tech upgrade he has in play, so his hand size can be up to 7 where it caps off in his hero ability. Iron Man has a base value of 2 thwart, and I guess he has an attack and defense stat, but you'll almost never use those. Just focus on his thwarting and you'll be okay. His kit contains 7 tech armor upgrades. These upgrades are key to getting Iron Man's hand size increased. They all have different abilities, like extra hit points, ping damage or ping threat removal, and the ability to ready Iron Man and use his thwart twice in a turn or remove 4 threat a turn. Let's go through 5 quick tips to piloting Iron Man. Tip number 1. Don't flip immediately. You don't want to deal with a 2 to 3 hand size turn at the beginning of the game. It can really set you behind. Wait until you have a few more tech pieces out. Those tech upgrades, again, are key. You're going to want to bring allies or some sort of threat management tech. No, not that tech. This sort of card tech that works in alter ego form. Some cards that work really well for this are counterintelligence, under surveillance, even emergency in Maria Hill. These cards can let you sit in alter ego form for 1 to 2 turns at the beginning of the game, but you have to be a little bit careful with those villains that have low threat thresholds like Rhino and Crossbones. Tip number 2. Pack some extra tech. We talked about that there's 7 tech upgrades in Iron Man's kit, and his extra hand size caps off at 6, so you might think it doesn't make sense to include extra tech upgrades. But the more tech upgrades you have in your deck, the sooner you're going to get set up, be able to flip, and take advantage of that 7 hero hand size. Every aspect now has tech cards that you can include in Iron Man's deck to expedite this ramped acceleration. In Justice, we have Sonic Rifle. In Protection, we have Electrostatic Armor and Energy Barrier. In Leadership, we have Power Gloves and Reinforced Suit, and in Aggression, we have Hand Cannon. There's even a basic tech weapon, although it's a real bad card, so I wouldn't suggest bringing it over any of the options that are shown here. Tip number 3. Okay, tip number 1 was don't flip right away. Tip number 3 is don't take forever to flip. Ultimately, threat is still a clock. Often you can flip with 3 to 4 tech upgrades without having too bad of a tempo hit, but just remember, the longer you take to flip, the more of a threat hole you're going to have to dig yourself out of. So there's a balance between threat tokens and how many cards you have, and that's different depending on the aspect you choose and the villain you're up against. So don't take forever to flip, make sure things are perfectly balanced. Tip number 4, think about your endgame. It's not all about those tech upgrades. Once you have all 7 out, you are rocking and rolling, but resource types matter too. Thin your deck and control what resources are going to be in it at the end of the game. Iron Man has 2 of the most explosive events in the game. Repulsor Blast can hit for up to 13 with a properly thinned deck that has only energy resources remaining. Supersonic Punch is 2 for 8, which is some of the most effective hero damage you can get out there. But don't forget, you're going to need a mental resource to go aerial to trigger that Supersonic Punch. One thing you can do is if you have 2 of those rocket boots, you don't need both in play to get Iron Man's hand size all the way up, so you can use 1 pair of rocket boots to fuel the other and use Stark Tower to add it to your hand. Let's list off some other cards that have really good Iron Man synergy. Like I mentioned, there's the tech upgrades, Sonic Rifle, Power Gloves, Reinforced Suit, Electrostatic Armor, Energy Barrier, and Hand Cannon. Of these, Sonic Rifle and Energy Barrier are 2 of the best ones for Iron Man. The ones that go on allies might be temporary if the ally goes away, and you're usually not using Iron Man to attack, so Hand Cannon isn't particularly useful. You're going to want some quality deck thinners, and ideally ones that are either free, like Honorary Avenger, or provide energy resources, like Endurance and Deft Focus. You can bring Endurance and Deft Focus for the entire team, getting 6 cards out of your deck so your Repulsor Blast is hitting more things, and if they stay in your deck, they're energy resources to fuel that Repulsor Blast. Make sure you synergize with your tech abilities. Remember, even though if you're trying to get only energy resources, you are going to need mental resources to fuel those rocket boots. So including something like Enhanced Awareness to give yourself 3 turns of aerial isn't too bad. It's sort of resource filtering. Another card that synergizes really well with a tech piece is Yarnbjorn. It is a unique upgrade after your hero attacks an enemy. Spend a physical resource to deal 2 damage to an enemy. Well, each of those powered gauntlets you have is an attack. And with your Arc Reactor out, you can make 4 attacks a turn, triggering Yarnbjorn 4 times every turn. 1 resource for 2 damage is a pretty good ratio to aim for. Obviously, Iron Man's events are a little bit more efficient. You can always enhance your Thwart with Heroic Intuition, and reduce the cost of your events using Martial Prowess and Deft Focus. With Deft Focus, you can get your Repulsor Blasts down to free. With Martial Prowess, you can get Repulsor Blast for free or Supersonic Punch down to a resource cost of 1, which really lets you pack a powerful turn. At the end of it, don't forget about tip number 1. You don't want to flip right away unless absolutely necessary, especially in a multiplayer game where your hero teammates can make up for you. But include something like Counterintelligence, Under Surveillance, Maria Hill, or at worst case in worst, bring Emergency. Seems like a bad card, but the energy resource and the ability to keep Tony in alter ego form totally makes it worth it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in future segments.